So this is the very first meeting for the SegWit, is what I've been calling it. I'm Lanzer, the program manager for SegWit, and we also have Falcor, the deputy program manager. I am a newly elected Star Atlas Council member, and I'm my background is in contract writing, proposal evaluation, and program management. Been a gamer for a long time as well, and in Web3 for quite a while. Falcor?
So yeah, I actually connected with Lanzer here through the meetings for the council and sort of representing the Galileo Business Association, which I've really enjoyed being a part of. You know, that's something that was started by FALAC and Stash Tech, Galileo Merchants. So yeah, we're just getting some collaborations together here. My side of things is sort of more grassroots small business grants that I've done. Not so much on the Web3 side, but building in Star Atlas here for I guess coming on 4 years in September. So yeah, looking forward to see what we can do here. Yep.
Right on. So, SegWit. As we go through all of these slides, we will be bringing out some helpful visuals to help articulate what the vision is, what we intend on doing, and how we intend on accomplishing it. SegWit, at its core, is a team that seeks out grant funding from outside the DAO. And I'm not sure how many of you are tracking, but there is a lot of opportunity out there to be funded, not just through Atlas or through the DAO, but there are a lot of grant opportunities out there. There are a lot of organizations that are looking to send money for qualified proposals and grant opportunities because there's a lot of building out there. And so what that means is that these grant funds that we'd be receiving would become like a second ecosystem fund. It's not a second DAO. It's not a separate process. The DAO would end up voting on who receives that grant funding through a structured RFP process, and we'll probably go over that a little bit later. But I'll post in the chat. It looks a little bit like this, where we seek out grant opportunities. We match our initiatives against those grant opportunities, apply for them, get approved, create a proposal process on Discord, review and evaluate proposals that we receive. Then we create a PIP that will allow the DAO community to choose which proposal is the strongest, and that proposal that's selected will end up completing the grant work and paid the grant dollars. So that's the basic rundown of what we put into place. A lot of this is just initial. So we're talking through things, we're brainstorming how we can connect the opportunities that are out there where entities are looking to give out grants with our initiatives that are a good fit for them. So joining the team for the SegWit Solana grants writing team, there's a couple things I want to point out is that for those of you who do participate in the structuring and writing of the proposals and the grant approval, you end up getting a reward for that. That award comes into the form of a grants proposal preparation, and it's priced in to the grant itself. So there's no extra PIP money we have to seek out. This is strictly if we win grants, then the people who help put it together are also rewarded for that. Also, there's a lot of networking to be had. Um, Star Atlas business community is pretty strong. It's one of the stronger ones I've seen in DAOs. So there's plenty of networking that can be had in this process, which also begets you opportunities for partnerships. And we'll get into the connection to GBA and how all that might work out. And last but not least, the actual experience you get from building proposals, seeking out competitive or engaging in competitive structures out there in the public DAO space will help build your resume or your curriculum vitae, CV, whichever persuasion you are, and give you some experience in doing that. And if you don't know how, don't worry. We will teach you how. Learning is not the problem. It's having the time and the commitment to figuring it out. I've been doing this for over 13 years in my professional life. So there's a very tried and true process for how you obtain funding from grants. It's very it's not that difficult to do. You just need time to do it. And if we seek out the proposals or the grant opportunities and we construct well-made proposals, we will eventually get one. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And if we can have the commitment to make it happen, we will find one, and one will find us a good fit. It's just how you look hard enough, you'll figure it out. So we will teach you how to do that. We just need a team that's willing to put in the time to do the work. All right, now the quad. So this is all to bring you all up to speed with where we are and how things are unfolding. Falcor and I started this up last week. So this time last week, and this happened. I guess I should have put the very first thing that happened was during meeting number 1 on the 12th for the Star Atlas Council. There was an action item to follow up with what Falcor was talking about in the chat about Solana grant funding and the GBA. That is the genesis for what you're seeing right now. That action item led me to, oh, there's a GBA, there's an actual business association. Oh, there's 20 members in it. And holy smokes, Falcor has already submitted a grant for the Phoenix bus. We could be utilizing this across our ecosystem and and basically earning the grant funds, whereas before, just adding to it. But on April 15th, he and I we sought out a due diligence document, and well, we created a due diligence document and a spreadsheet of other grants. How much did they ask for? What were they approved at? So there's a lot of research that went into all of this before we got down to the business of, like, is this actually feasible? So we compiled the who's who in the zoo and key contacts, what it is that these grants are looking for, what and kind of like measured out a likelihood of success. How much are they looking to give out? Some are looking to give out micro grants. Some are 5,000. Some are upwards of 100,000. So there's a pretty wide range. And also we created this program diagram. This is where we started trying to figure out who's who and how is it all connected. It all basically stems from the Solana Foundation and their funding program. They have separate funding grant programs beneath them that we'll be looking into to figure out which ones work for us and the initiatives that we would like to fund. And then April 16th, we created these tag up charts, and also we created the RFP process. Oh, that's the wrong slide. That's the wrong slide too. This one's the slide. The grant to RFP to PIP process. So this is that structured approach I was referring to earlier. Everywhere from going to the Solana website to find grants to RFP, how we get the proposals from the Star Atlas community, then how we convert that into a PIP, and then how the DAO votes on the PIP and the winner proceeds with the work. And the we can share all these slides. They're already in the meeting invite, so you can be following along if you'd like as well. Okay, then I talked it over with the council internal and got a general one got a general thumbs up about proceeding forward with this meeting and exploring our options. And that will be a continuous thing I do with them as we try and figure out what this can be. And then yesterday met with Fal from Galley Business Association, and we agreed on initial partnership approach to how we might partner and integrate them into this process. So the scope of responsibility, what we're looking to do here. will be responsible for the development of grant proposals and implementing of grant funding in alignment with DAO principles. And those DAO principles are like decentralization and funding and building out in the open. And we are coordinating with 11 different stakeholder entities, and that's just us counting the stakeholder diagram. That's not counting now where we're adding SegWit under what we think will fall under the community versus the DAO Council, still having talks about how that's going to happen or where it should fit. But as of right now, we're placing it under the Startless community as like a community project and creating it as part of the ecosystem. And right now, the teammate count is 2. So, like I said, we're looking for teammates, and this meeting here is to bring you all up to speed with where we are. And I will, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll just consolidate like a question slide and do that at the very end. Okay. Now, overall goals. Very first goal is to make SegWit interoperable with GBA if possible. And Falcor has a little bit to say on that.
Yeah, so the Gallia Business Association, I mean, it's basically all of the creators, community developers, and IP businesses come together like a chamber of commerce, and it's just been amazing, to be a part of that. I mean, basically, you got Raspy in there, Atom, developers, creators, IP stuff, of course, Gallia merchants starting the whole thing up. So I guess I kind of see it as sort of like the grassroots level, like we can a PIP is basically like a grant for Atlas. But what we're talking about with this sort of work group here is sort of translating that to like more of like I guess it would be the federal level equivalent, right? Like in real world, where you'd be getting soul grants um, out of Solana, and everyone having built for so long. I mean, it's literally a working economy already with Sage, and these are working businesses. So it's yeah, I don't know who else has that, but it's powerful. And just in my own experience of putting in my first grant, even though it got rejected after like 10 days or whatever, it's like I connected with so many people. So it was like through Super Teams for a $10,000 grant. And then that put me in through Super Teams Canada and then Teams Maritimes here in Nova Scotia. So apparently there's 20 people right in my neighborhood, and they didn't know anything about any of us in terms of like the Star Atlas ecosystem, what we're building, how it all works together. So in communicating that, they were just like, "Oh wow, holy smokes!" So it might not be today or tomorrow, but at some point I'm going to meet up with these people, and it's powerful to get out there, even for grants that don't get accepted. So yeah, I'm excited to sort of feel that out. We have some. I guess we're going to be having meetings with Val, and there's a podcast in the works and stuff, so a lot could come out of that. But yeah, if Val, you wanted to share anything, that's cool. If not, yeah, I guess we can move on there.
Well, I think you got most of the info there. I think I would just say that basically the role of GBA, at least the way I see it, and we haven't really run this through the entire membership yet, so this is early days. But any we are in support of any uh, organizations or processes for helping businesses grow in Star Atlas. So if that's applying for a PIP through traditional the DAO or through this um, I don't know how you would call it, but the other grant funding opportunities. We're all in support of that. So we'll just we'll just see how this plays out, and just see how we can support our businesses.
Thank you. Yeah, I know I'm maybe a new face to many Star Atlassians, uh, to the Star Atlas community, but I'm not a new face to the public DAO community. There's a whole world out there of public DAOs DAOing together, and that's what's represented over here on the far right. I don't know. Y'all may not be aware, or maybe you are. you're already cross DAOing. Every time you interact with Super Phoenix DAO, that's its own separate DAO system. I'm pretty sure you've already interacted with Solana DAO in some ways, even if um, it wasn't exactly obvious to you. But there's also extra stuff that could be happening, like Pizza DAO, for instance. Pizza DAO is a bunch of happy-go-lucky folks who just want to throw pizza parties for a bunch of Web3 communities. They love throwing pizza parties, and they will like. That's what I thought of uh, when I read Signal's Pizza Pip. I'm like, man, this is exactly what Pizza DAO loves. They would go bananas over helping to support the Pizza Pip. Uh, so there's all sorts of partnership opportunities all out there in the DAO world, the DAO sphere, and we're already doing cross chain things with with Solana. I don't know if there's anything with EVM or Ethereum or Polygon or whatever else. All I've heard right now is Solana, but there's more opportunities out there across the chain as well, across many different chains. It's just you, Star Atlas is unique in that it already has what looks like a chamber of commerce. I think I can count on one hand how many DAOs have that, and you have a functioning marketplace economy, which is awesome. You are probably one of only 2 DAOs I've ever seen that has that. I say you, we have that. That gives us a lot of opportunity to exist within the DAO space outside of Star Atlas. That's why the grant system is a possibility for us, and many of the other partnerships that Automata have put in place with like Shaga and everybody else. So GBA is one way that the players and the gamers within Star Atlas community and the ecosystem can maneuver, self-advocate, and grow. All right. Second thing, this was we did this like a week and a half ago, so at the time this seemed more achievable. So I established the team before the end of the month, so April 30th, and then submit our first grant before the end of the month. I'm not sure we're going to make that. Just I don't know. Things are few more things I gotta figure out before we're in a position to do that, and then get to the ending goal is to submit 15 grants before the end of the year, and that's pairing it with grant opportunities that we feel is worthwhile in pursuing. That would be the slide right here. This was just me spitballing, but DAO modules. There are a lot of things I've already seen just from outside in the DAO world, what they use versus what people have been saying in chat of things like Discord on-chain transactions, being able to integrate Snapshot or an API hook into the DAO reputation systems that exist out there, like DAO-based AI or DAOing. So there's a lot of different ways you could take it. And Atlas Chest is something that I intend to pursue either as a pip or whatever, but it's kind of like a Thank Ape equivalent, if some of you are familiar with that. Basically rewards content creators for meeting milestones that are valuable to the community. And they utilize Thrive Protocol for that. And all sorts of stuff that we could look into, match it up against the different grant programs and what they say they want to fund, and then apply. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if we get denied, okay. But I anticipate we will get at least one grant if we keep trying. All right. And the overarching goal is to get approval and funding for 5 grants. That's the milestone I want to hit before the end of the year. And it's up in the air as to which 5 grants or which 15 grants we go for and all of that. Okay, and then on the bottom left, 30, 60, 90, this is just some plan of attack that we want to hit for for standing this up, Falcor and I, and trying to get this on the road. We're meeting, so we are here now, April 22nd, and after we figure out who wants to join the team to to either learn how or just start banging out proposals, grants, excuse me, not proposals, grants, then we will slide right into that and start matching types of grant with the potential opportunities that could be funded. And there'll have to be discussions behind this. Like the team will have to debate the merits, and there'll be a lot of discussion that needs to take place for us to match so that we can maximize our chances for success. And like I said, if you don't know how to write proposals, that's fine. We will teach you. Learning is not the problem. It's the time commitment and the effort required to make it happen. If you've got that, then we want you on the team. Everything else is learnable. Okay. And then I just battle planned out, but pretty much what I put over the goals for submitting for grants and try and figure it out. And this is the overall process by which we intend to attack this, which is go to the Solana website, up in the top left, where we want to submit a grant to the Solana ecosystem by going to their website, matching and one of our DAO initiatives with a grant category. And that's the matching the right hand side with the left hand side. Then submitting an application to the Solana grant website, receiving grant approval. If we get a rejection, then we just reattack number two, match another one, apply again. And we keep doing that. And each time we apply, we'll be able to apply better and we'll have a stronger proposal because we'll learn a lot throughout that process of what they're looking for and make connections, talk with them and see what we can do to add value to their ecosystem and they add value to ours. Then over in B, once we get grants and their funding, then we will then convert it into a request for proposal. That RFP will model the grant itself. So it'll have the same stipulations, all the stuff that the grants from Solana require of us, we will require of the person who wins the RFP. So that'll include things like instructions to the proposers, what it is they need to do to submit a proposal. Evaluation criteria is how we will judge them. And this is more of like a pass fail, like it could be as simple as, are you a GBA member? Yes or no. If no, then you're not eligible to receive the you're not eligible to win the RFP. We haven't talked through that all the way yet. That's just brainstorm right now. But also a description of what it is you will be delivering. So what did we get the grant money for? How long do you have to make delivery? What are particulars that you have to pay attention to as you deliver? Like, does it have to be, you know, specific type of token? Does it have to be on the Solana? Does it have to be multi-chain or whatever it is? And then how do you report on your success to the DAO so that we can all keep track of your progress? Then we publish that RFP into the Discord. 14 days is a kind of a placeholder, so let's just put X days. Could be 14, could be less or more, depending on what the team believes is the right move there. And then we receive proposals. People start submitting proposals there in that thread, similar to what you see now in Pips, where people can just submit their response with the structured format. And as long as it follows the instructions over here, then they'll be good. And similar in the same way that for here at C3, if we receive like 20 proposals, we'll probably need to downward select that to something more manageable because we're going to end up creating a pip out of the proposals and submitting a pip to the DAO community to vote and rank order just like you did for the elections. And the winning proposal will be the one that gets ranked the highest. They'll be the one that'll be approved to do the grant work. So when that winning proposal wins, then they're the ones that jumps into the work. They deliver the product or service or whatever the grant's based on, and the winning proposal receives the grant payments from Solana. We then close out the requirement with Solana, and we repeat the process. That is the basic plan of attack that we dreamt up here. And like I said, nothing's set in stone. This is just the structure to process that made the most sense. Falcor, do you have anything you'd like to comment on?
No, it makes sense to me, and particularly having submitted a grant, I ended up doing the Super Teams. They called it an Instagrant through Super Teams Canada, so that they sort of advertised 48-hour turnaround on an answer. I had to kind of hunt them down. It took me like 10 days to get you know the decline on that, but no, this would have been helpful to put it together with this group, and your expertise in that support rather than just scrambling to do it myself, which it was well developed, in my mind. But I'm not going to stop. So anyone who wants to join in, I think there's a lot of potential. I mean, particularly, I mean, with everybody in the GBI, I mean, a ton of, like, blood, sweat, and tears has gone in at so many different levels. Whether you're looking at the developers or, like, even Sage, people playing that full time, or whatever. And when you see stuff like Raspy, where it's like we can have impact outside of our immediate, like, Star Atlas bubble, getting out of this echo chamber and having that impact. So I think this is a great avenue for that. And we've already seen some great stuff happening, just through GBA connecting and communicating, with the council, with the DAO, obviously resulting in this, but then it also helps the team in streamlining ecosystem communications and just bringing everything together. So just looking forward to helping out, you know, as we sort of figure this out. But thank you.
Thanks, Falcor. And again, Falcor is the deputy program manager, so he shares in all the blame with me. All right, back to the quad. So that was the grants to RFP process that we would end up executing with changes as we adjust in real time over time. And like I mentioned, submitting 15 grants before the end of the year, and the target is to get approval for 5 of them. Okay, Falcor, did I miss anything? I just go through the slides and
I think I think that pretty much covers it there. Yeah, I see a question here from Fowl about basically, you know, why run it through the PRIP process if the GBA could review the grants. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I guess it's still kind of being set up, right? Like, there's, in terms of the entity or whatever.
what was the question?
It's in the chat here. It's on the going through the, yeah, GBA reviewing the grants instead of through the PIP process. I guess the PIP was only for the disbursement of funds. That's after it was approved. So yeah, I think the review of the grants before they're submitted, yeah, that could be a thing, right?
I'm losing the bubble. Where's the question?
Oh, it's in the chat here. I'll just read it off for you. So, is there any reason why we have to run this through the PIP process? Seems like an extra layer. Maybe GBA could review the grants. It would be a faster turnaround.
That's a good question. I
Yeah.
think as we approach that, mostly we were thinking about decentralization. The PIP process executes the already existing DAO, whereas if we hand it to GBA, and I don't think that's a bad idea. It's just you start centralizing who can get funds. Whereas I don't know, maybe it's just a philosophical approach that I've taken. I'm not opposed to it. We want to do the thing that makes the most sense. And to me, utilizing the existing DAO voting process made sense.
I if I can jump in, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it's going to be important to distinguish which DAO we're talking about. And I think that's where kind of the question came from. This, correct me if I'm wrong, but this isn't a Star Atlas DAO initiative. It's more of a GBA initiative. Would that be correct? Would that be a correct statement?
No, it's a me initiative. So Star Atlas DAO. I mean, I don't speak for the
Okay,
DAO. I'm a council member, like we all are.
right. I think that's definitely going to be a distinction we're going to have to make. And yeah, running stuff through the PIP process through the Star Atlas DAO will be a whole nother conversation. To me, it looks like this whole thing is a, like you said, the Chamber of Commerce type thing. It's the GBA doing this, not the Star Atlas DAO. That's just always been my kind of picture um, of this. And it would honestly be a lot cleaner, I would assume, on the GBA side if it was just GBA with kind of the wink or the head nod sort of quasi approval of Star Atlas, the Star Atlas DAO, the Star Atlas Council. Those are all very different entities, but that kind of plays into that question that was in the chat. It would be substantially easier if the GBA applied for the funds, the GBA got it, and then the GBA did a sub grant process on top of that. It wouldn't have to be convoluted. It wouldn't have anything to do with PIPs. It wouldn't have literally anything to do with the Star Atlas DAO or anything. You guys have kind of thoughts on that?
I don't dislike the idea. I didn't consider when Fal we met yesterday. We were mostly talking about how GBA was standing up its operations from the beginning. So there might be a point where it makes sense to Shark. Would you mind muting your hot mic? Shark bait.
I muted him, my friend.
Okay, thanks.
If I may just jump in here. The GBA is not a legal entity, so I don't know how we would be able to accept funds from any Solana Foundation or any official uh, you know, organization like that. So if the GBA was going to take a primary role and dispersing money and all that stuff, we'd have to. We're not even close to doing that yet. So um, I mean, this is all very new. I mean, I just had this conversation yesterday, and in
Right.
theory, we're interested as an organization that supports Star Atlas businesses. So we certainly, our members may need funds at some point, or new businesses want funds to start businesses. So we're generally in support of all that, and we would send. Obviously, at this point, the easiest way is just to send people to the Star Atlas DAO and go through the PIP process. That's already been established. But I understand that sometimes that process can take longer, and if people are looking for more funding, this would be sort of a supplementary bucket of funding that people could apply for. So uh, we're still hashing this out. So but again, we're supportive of trying to build out the business ecosystem within Star Atlas. So I think we just need to sort of figure out what works. But yeah, in we do. My initial thought was I was a little bit confused about the separation between the Star Atlas DAO and this organization. So I think that needs to be cleared up, and so that we're not, causing the community confusion about, where there's money and who's, what the process is. So
Yeah, that's fair. And in response to so the separation is that Solana will give a grant to an organization, whether or not it has to be a company, like a registered LLC or whatever. I don't know yet. I have to delve into that. When they send the funds, and uh, Carlos asked where would they go, I think they would go to the DAO Treasury, so the foundation would take custody of that. We haven't gotten that far yet in the conversation. I'm not sure. I don't even know if that's feasible, but that seems to be the most likely choice right now. or do we have to set up a new custodial wallet, a multi-sig of some kind? Not sure. So that's
Yeah,
where
I
the
think
funds would
it's a
go.
right. Sorry, no, I just wanted to share. I think it would be important to make the distinction for different levels of grants too, because a lot of these are micro grants. Like the thing I did, the Insta grant for 10,000, that could be like something where the working group could help, but then if that's just for a specific GBA business, it wouldn't have to involve the DAO. And then some of them, there's like a $200 Super Teams meetup thing, and that obviously wouldn't need to go through the DAO. But if we're talking about the bigger thing, like you were talking about, like 100,000 or more, where it would be like an ecosystem grant, which would then be dispersed to whoever, like your creator idea or whatever, then that's where that makes sense, and making those definitions and stuff. But
Yeah, the DAO is there to give a source of fairness to the process of determining who gets the Solana money. It's we have a voting mechanism in place right now to determine that, like we just did with elections and the PIP process. So it seems to me a very clear route to take to copy the RFP, or excuse me, copy the grant requirements and the proposals into a PIP, and then have the community rank order those proposals, and the strongest proposal wins. That to me is the connection. If we want to not pursue that process, okay, we'll have that discussion. Maybe GBA wants to take that on to where they're the only ones reviewing the grants and determining who wins. I'm not opposed to it. It didn't strike me as the most obvious route when it came to fairly deciding who gets the grant money. What are the questions that we have? What does GBA or any other DAO want from the SA DAO? Fal, do you have a idea of what, if anything, you would want from the SA DAO? The answer could be you don't need anything from us.
Yeah, maybe I'm repeating myself here, but basically, what I would be advocating for would be a separate process completely from the DAO. I think I think it's just going to be. I don't even see how it's possible to somehow shoehorn um, the grant process that comes from the Solana Foundation grants into the Star Atlas DAO. Personally, I feel like let's try to create less friction and find an easier solution. I mean, I think in theory, I'd be, if we wanted to explore the GBA basically taking this on as just a supplementary funding program, then we'd have to figure out a way to create a legal entity that would be able to accept funding. I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, you're talking about taxes and all kinds of stuff. You have to form some kind of probably a nonprofit or a foundation structure. So legally, that would be a lot of work. And so, I don't know if, we'd have to discuss that with membership to see if that would be something that they would be interested in. So, um, I think they should be separate. That's just my personal opinion, but, because I just think that would be just easier, uh, for everyone to understand. But, anyway,
Okay.
that's my opinion.
All right. Thanks, Val. So the next question was, how do grants affect the Star Atlas DAO? Can the DAO legally receive grants and allocate them through a competitive RFP process? That's the goal. That is the exact plan that we intend to leverage. Now, whether or not that will survive scrutiny of can the foundation receive assets in its custody? There was no immediate red flags to me why it wouldn't be able to, but we'll still have to get that cleared up with the foundation. It can receive funds now, so I'm not aware of any restriction from the source of funding except for anti-money laundering and those sorts of illegal things. But the foundation isn't engaged in that, so Solana would be a good entity. So what I'm trying to figure out is what confusion is there about leveraging our PIP process? What is it that people believe is not possible?
I can chime in a little bit here. I personally
Okay.
don't think it's not possible. I think it's going to be a bigger lift than just doing it. And I say that from the lens of our downtown association. We, as our downtown association, have applied for HUD funds. In the past, it was through the state, and the state had to apply from the Fed. So there was multiple layers of grant funding. So the state got, I don't know, like 4 million or whatever they got, and then all the different towns applied for it, and then the one town got 300,000, and then the town put it out to organizations, and one of those organizations was downtown, and so that is, it can be worked through, that's for sure. So if
Okay.
that's the route that it takes, I think it's possible, but I think it would be, there definitely have to be a process and a procedure enacted, and the DAO, the Star Atlas DAO, through the council would have to kind of be willing to take that on. So like, and then all, to be honest, there was a fourth layer. So we, as our downtown association, took those grants and then did a sub grant to businesses, not unlike what we're talking about now, that wanted to, it was called the rental assistance program. So 4 layers down from the feds, we ended up giving grants to businesses. So is it possible? Yes, absolutely. Do I think it's a great thing? Absolutely. If we can support the Chamber of Commerce, I like that analogy, Lanzer, that was good. If we can support, we being the DAO, and only speaking from the council perspective, because the DAO is the collective.
Yeah.
I think that could be a thing that would happen. Is it a little complicated? Absolutely. Can it be done? Potentially.
Cool. Okay. What
Yeah,
other
so I guess the
questions?
Chamber of Commerce members are the forward-facing public entities. So I think leveraging this, just the fact that this conversation is happening is awesome because, like Raspy's thing, it's the value that we can create is virtually unlimited. So we should be able to have those underlying, whatever the infrastructure is. You guys know a lot more about this. I'm just learning, but to fund that stuff, and this is the beginning of that. So very cool stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So the whole thing here was to bring everyone up to speed on what the Solana Grants writing team is, and a request for those who would like to join and participate in building out proposals to apply for grants. That's what we're looking for. And again, if you don't know how, if you don't have a skill set for writing out proposals, that's fine. We'll teach you. We do have people on
And
the team who do know how to do this professionally.
I do think it's really important to note, the GBA, even though you're not a legal entity, if you will, if somebody is asking for funds from Solana, just like you said, Lanzer, like you and the group can help an individual, not unlike what we do in the Star Atlas DAO. You guys can help people write a grant application. It doesn't even have to be the big one, like it doesn't have to be the $100,000 ask and
Right.
then like sub grants and blah blah blah. Like truly, Falcor, you've done it before. You've went through the grant process. You saw the good, the bad, the ugly. You got feedback, so that's very valuable. And then Lanzer, you've done other grants and things and administered all kinds of things. So the low hanging, really, really easy fruit is for people in the GBA that want to apply. You've got 2 people bare minimum to help apply on your behalf. So it doesn't have to necessarily be the big thing. But
Yeah.
does that make sense? Did I explain that? And
Yep,
Well,
I'm good
does that
with $5,000 grants, with $100 grants, whatever it is we feel that matches correctly between what initiatives we have and what the Solana grant programs require in order to fund. Like one of them is strictly DAOs only. They have a DAO specific grant program that funds Solana DAOs. So that's where when we were reading closer into what it is that might be, that's when we came up with, oh, this thing could potentially fund the development and deployment of DAO upgrades instead of it being an automata employee doing it in his spare time when he really doesn't want to be. That's the sort of thing that immediately jumped out at us.
Yeah, Decentra Grants was the program in the documentation. There's a second one on the list for anyone wanting to check it out.
Yeah. And then all this list is right here. That's just my observation of seeing a lot of the public DAOs. Uh, a lot of this is probably going to change, but I'm spitballing what it is I've seen, like how Discord is integrated, how they have on-chain transactions from bots. They have all sorts of API hooks into their reputation systems. Like it's getting very uh, the DAO industry out there, the public DAOs are getting very advanced in how they DAO together. And I consider Star Atlas more of a private DAO because it's got kind of like a gated. You had to get to Discord, and you've had a staked Polis, and so it's more of a private DAO versus public DAO like ApeCoin or Sandbox or Nouns. So all this will evolve over time as people make known what it is they want to do. So let's get back to the very heart of it before we close our meeting. If you would like to be on the grants writing team, please put a 1 in the chat so I can copy paste here and then contact you after this. We will also provide an opportunity for you to join again in the future. It'll probably be an open revolving door invite. And with that, we will start hosting regular SegWit meetings to where we triangulate which grant we want to write up first. So the rewards for successful grant writing, in the grants that we write, we'll be pricing in our proposal preparation costs. That's will be the basis of the rewards that'll go out to the proposal writers. You'll also have quite a bit of networking that you can do with the business community, who you'll be liaising with and coordinating with within Star Atlas, and I guess external as well. And then there'll be natural partnerships that you will be privy to and or looked at for the experience that you're building, and being able to say that you helped prepare proposals that earned X thousands of dollars for X number of stakeholders is also a resume item. At least it's on my resume. So if you'd like to join, please put a 1 in the chat and I will write you down. Bohemian. Awesome, Bohemian. Glad to have you on. And you don't have to decide right now. You can decide later. You can also private chat one of us, and we will make an announcement in the future for you to join when we have our next meeting, which will probably be in about a week.
I do want to jump in one last time and just make sure everyone is aware this isn't the DAO Council. This isn't the Star Atlas DAO's initiative as of right now, since nothing has been solidified or anything. It's just kind of a hybrid at the very best. It's just literally a group of people coming together to move forward with a collective idea. I just want to make that clear that nothing has been solidified from the Star Atlas Council, the Star Atlas DAO.
Yep, that's true.
It's an independent working group, right? It's pretty much what you'd call it.
Yeah, it's a subcommittee is what I would call it, but yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about a
Cool.
subcommittee because we've just agreed that we're not part of the council yet.
Yeah, it's something we need to work through terminology, but it's definitely
Yeah.
not the council. It's definitely not the Star Atlas DAO.
Yep. It was born out of our council meeting, but now that we see that the place is, like I mentioned down here in the bottom right, part of the community endeavor, and it may turn into something in the DAO Council in the future. There's still got a lot to discuss and work through implications.
Absolutely. I just wanted to be very clear for some of the people in the audience. Bohemian.
All right, so we got Bohemian on the list of the team, and if you'd like to join, please send Falcor and I a message, and we will also include you in the discussions from now on. Falcor, do you have anything you'd like to close us out with?
No, no, I think that pretty much covers everything. I appreciate it. Sharing your expertise and all the great presentation stuff. I think it's in general, it's just fantastic to be able to, potentially scale our newly forming chamber of commerce here. So
Yep.
cool stuff, and looking forward to being in touch on for the next steps here and with Bohemian as well.
Val, thank you very much for attending, and look forward to talking how we can better work together in the future.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
All right, everyone, thank you for your time, and that will close out our meeting. Go team, go.